This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hello.
Well, let's get back to it.
That's excellent news with the sports reports right at the end there. Now I don't have to waste my time watching Match of the Day.
Damn it!
All those hours I've saved. Not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Some texts and tweets and such from last night. McDavid texts... Oh, no, it's McDade. Just arrived in Glasgow from Birmingham, and guess what? It's raining.
What?
I can't believe it. I could check on whether... This is from last night, so I could check on whether it is still raining in Glasgow for you at the moment. I don't know why I'm wasting my time here, though. I mean, really, what's the point? We all know what the answer is going to be. One moment, please, while I check. Yes, it's raining at the moment in Glasgow. Don't call me and tell me it isn't, because I'm telling you that it is. Oh, and a brief weather update for those living there. Yes, it's going to be raining every day for the rest of your life. Just checked. Never mind, eh? Cheryl says, Lady Gaga copied Madonna. Seen it all before, says Cheryl. Yeah, well, you could say the same for Madonna, though. Because pretty much everything that Madonna did was copying somebody, Marlene Dietrich or Brigitte Bardot or Betty Davis or Tina Turner or, and very, very specifically, Grace Jones. Grace Jones. Yeah, and plus Lady Gaga, as far as I'm aware, I mean, I haven't heard her entire canon. I just heard that song that she did with the Rolling Stones, which was fan-bloomin-tastic.
Rock and roll!
Is great, and she can't half-sing on that, I can tell you. Sing while dancing around on what look like 10-inch high heels. Approximately how tall is Lady Gaga? Because I don't think Mick Jagger's very tall. And they came up around about the same size, but she had to put on shoes. Well, I've never seen anything like it. How can she move around on those things? Never mind about dance and sing at the same time. What a talent. Zara texts, all this reference to George Orwell's... Zara texts, all this reference to George Orwell's 1984. I bought a copy. I read Animal Farm at school. 1984 is a heavy read in comparison, says Zara. Well... read something lighter, Zara. Read the TV guide. That's what I do. Mickey says, hey, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind here, Mickey. He says, what about the fabulous entertainment we get from the mighty orange the mighty orange Jesus?
Don't be rude.
He says, P.S. your Trump impression is most excellent. Mostly. Thanks, Mikey. You're so fine, you blow my mind, hey, Mikey. Judy says, regarding your caller from New Jersey. Okay, this is from late last night, and the moment I started talking to him, I thought, you're not calling me from New Jersey, because there's a certain sound that you get from international calls. Usually they sound better than calls from this country, which just blows my mind. How is that possible? Even people talking on mobile phones in other countries sounds better than people talking on a mobile phone in this country. Now, you'd think... with a landline, that's understandable. A landline abroad would sound better than somebody on a mobile in this country. But how does a mobile abroad sound better than a mobile here? Because aren't they using the same infrastructure? Why am I asking you? There's absolutely no reason why you should know the answer to that. Anyway, it says, regarding your caller from New Jersey, I too live in the US, and I know people... That was his thing. He's calling saying he knows people, and from memory, he said something of the order of everybody is going to vote for Trump and Vance, and Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are the weirdos, which is it's the right-wing response to that word weird, isn't it? And oh dear. There's something about this studio, I don't know. Has somebody been having a barbecue in here? It seems to be thick with particles. Anyway, yeah, that word weird really seems to have ruffled their feathers, doesn't it? Because it's almost as though somebody has stamped it on them and they can't rub it off. Because the whole thing about Trump is infantile insults. And anybody says anything back at him at all that's not a compliment, it's them they're being very unkind. They're being nasty to me. Everyone's very, very nasty. Oh, by the way, I tweeted, it's something that I've seen before, but it's just hilarious. You know this thing Trump does with his hands and he moves them back and forth like this? Like this. I'm on the radio, idiot. He moves them back and forth, in and out, out and out and out and out and in and out and in. Somebody has videoed using artificial intelligence.
Affirmative.
They have digitaled in an accordion. God, it's so funny. It's absolutely hilarious. So I put that out. You can look at it. It'll be available on the internet near you, I betcha. Betcha. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, he said that, everybody thought that Walls and Harris were weird. That's because they can't think of anything else. It's almost as though they've been punched below the belt, Trump and Vance. And once you hear and associate them with the word weird, you can't unthink that. And everything they do seems weird. And it's almost as though they've been sideswiped. They just don't know how to handle it. Somebody punching, but it's typical bully behaviour, essentially. If you punch a bully back, it may be the first time that anybody's ever stood up to them, and they can't quite believe it. And then they go running to teacher. It says, I too live in the US and I also know people. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are doing an amazing job, says Judy. Trump and Vance are running scared. That's what it looks like. We are feeling hopeful and joyful here. Good, sane, dedicated and genuine leaders saving democracy. They do look like they're running scared. I mean, Trump looks like a deflated party balloon. Did you see Vance go into that shop and try to engage with ordinary people? And then by comparison, Tim Walz went into a sandwich shop and engaged with ordinary people. And the difference between the two films, the two experiences of the people behind the counter was just like chalk and cheese. It was like Halloween versus Christmas. You remember when Rishi Sunak tried to engage with ordinary people? Yeah, like that.
This government...
Yeah, still not missing you, Rishi, in case you were wondering. Whatever it is that you're doing now. He's representing his constituents on the world stage. Simon says, I think you're right, that we were gaslighted by Oasis. Oasis? I was listening to Carleen Anderson's version of Don't Look Back in Anger today, although she sang it magnificently. When you listen to the words, they're not that good. Oh, now I'm going to be forced to look them up. Homework?
Oh, no.
But I bet they're not any good at all. All right. Sam says, Trump sycophants don't like Tim Walz because they really don't have anything to use against him. They don't. It was strange hearing the fellow from New Jersey accuse lefties of being in the wrong while defending a convicted felon. Yeah, that's true. It's hard to get around that. Your husband is a convicted felon, Melania.
I don't care.
She's not that bothered. Texts and tweets and such from last night. Ian says, talking of hunting season, I was shocked to read that Sweden has an annual cull of brown bears. 150 in the first few days of licensed hunting this year. Last year, 722 bears were killed. Wow. I'm amazed at those numbers, says Ian. So am I. 722 bears. That's a lot of bears. Hunting season. But presumably they've got a bear problem. Or they just like killing big furry things. I don't know. But you'd have to assume that Sweden, being, full of the lefty wokey cokies,
Okie dokie.
you would assume that they're doing it because they've got a brown bear issue. 722. Blimey. And we were talking about speed limits a lot last night, and Keith says, I live in Edinburgh on a 20-mile-an-hour street. Everyone thinks it's the minimum speed. Yeah. You know, there's this thing about teenage car crashes. Being involved in a road traffic collision during your first driving test is more common than you might think. 1,500 crashes have occurred during practical driving tests in the last 4 years. What? 1,500. And the figures add justification to those calling for the introduction of graduated driving licenses for newly qualified motorists to improve road safety standards and protect the rest of us who don't drive around wearing a baseball cap. In the 4 years from 2020 to 2023, almost 1,500 learners were involved in a road traffic collision during their driving test. That's a sign. And the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency figures do not apportion blame, so it's unknown how many of the 1,488 collisions were the fault of the person with the provisional licence. Should we assume all of them? Unless any of them involved somebody driving another car that was a hatchback with blacked-out windows, in which case it was definitely their fault.
Correct.
Steve Gooding, RAC Foundation's director, said, "This is a stark and unwelcome reminder that life on the road can be unforgiving. Unlike a video game where you can just restart the game when you hit a tree, in real life, paramedics will be on the scene trying to restart your heart." He didn't say that, I did. He said newly qualified young drivers are particularly vulnerable and disproportionately stupid. No, he didn't say that either. Me again. And disproportionately involved in crashes. International evidence shows a graduated license system could improve safety. He said this might include a minimum learning period during which the novice gains vital experience and maturity. Maturity is going to be a long wait. They'll be ready for their pension by the time they grow up. There's something about being in charge of a car that makes us revert to a childlike state. When we throw our toys out of the pram at any impediment to doing whatever we want, whenever we want to do it. The AA has called on the new Labour government to address the number of teenage deaths on the road by limiting peer passengers in the first 6 months after passing their test. Yeah, kids shouldn't be allowed to drive above 20 miles an hour. Anywhere. And they should have a huge sign on their rear-view mirror that says, "Careful, moron on board," or something like that. And their car should be physically restricted to 20 miles an hour, or it explodes. All right, maybe not explodes, but their phone stops working. Or their gran messes up their hair every day for a month. Something like that. We've got to start doling out the punishment. Who's with me? And some people shouldn't be allowed on the road at all. I mean, there's one person apparently who spent £1,700 on 74 driving theory tests and still hasn't passed. I mean, I'm sorry, but for the benefit of the human race, they should take the bus. The RAC has also outlined its vision for a graduated driving licences system. It would extend over a probationary 2-year period. And in line with existing rules, new drivers have licences revoked if they receive 6 points during the initial 24 months. I think any points, really. You had your chance and you blew it. Motoring bodies believe that a 2-year graduated driving licence would provide suitable window for new drivers to gain experience and gradually and reduce the risks that surround inexperienced drivers. This sounds like smart thinking to me. I mean, they've tried it already. New Zealand is among countries where a similar scheme has already been used. It was introduced in 1987, and the result was a 23% reduction in car collisions for 15 to 19-year-olds. 15-year-olds? Behind the wheel of a car? You've got to be kidding me.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
What number are you calling from?
It's 0345 6060 973. And just on that last topic that I was talking about, these were still messages from last night. Stuart says, 20 mile an hour applies to all vehicles. That includes cyclists. Cyclists are vehicles. Well, the cycles are. albeit not motor vehicles. So how are they allowed to exceed it, especially at the Wales event? And he's talking about a cycle race that was happening in Welsh Wales. I think it's still on, isn't it? 4 days. 4 days of cycling. Can you imagine that?
Boring.
Just going by you at great speed. How is that a spectator sport? Don't get it. Any more than I get marathons as a spectator sport. But anyway, yeah, they had to reroute it or cancel some stages of it because it went through some areas that were 20 miles an hour. And the problem wasn't the cyclists, because apparently the 20 mile an hour limit does not apply to cyclists, but it does apply to the cars that were the support vehicles that were trailing the cyclists, which seems phenomenally stupid to me. I mean, if they're going to close the roads and allow a cycle race to interfere with everybody's life, then why can't they just, for that brief moment, disapply the 20 mile an hour limit? I mean, doesn't that make sense? Am I hallucinating? And the thing about cycle, I don't think you can make cycles obey a 20 mile an hour limit because they don't have a speedo on their bikes, do they? So how's a cyclist supposed to know how fast they're going? Too blooming fast, if you ask me. Let's see now. Springfield, Oregon. Hey, I know that. Andrew.
Hey, Nick, how are you?
Good, thanks.
I was phoning in because it's like hearing people talk about how Trump has got it sewn up, and I'm thinking, where are you living? It's like even the Republicans are like, oh look,
they're panicking.
There's someone sane to go for. We can vote for someone other than Trump.
That's right.
I mean, they're not going to say that in front of the spouses or.
Well, they formed a group, haven't they? Republicans for Harris.
For Harris. Yeah, there's a group in. It was the not Kirsty Noem, was it? There was someone else who was running against Nikki Haley's supporters have all gone for him.
Yeah, one of those cuckoos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of hard to keep track of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, on the car thing, I've just listening on the.
But now, just before you get into that, Oregon, I would imagine, would be a Republican state, is it?
No, it's actually it's a Democratic state. It has had Republican governors in the past, but it's been Democrat for 30, 40 years now. But it's one that I wouldn't say is always the safest state for the Democrats. If there was ever a really... I mean, it might take a lot to upset it, but the rural areas are very... I phoned in before. You talked about... You've been to Grants Pass, right? Grants
Pass. You have to say it with an American accent, otherwise it's Grants Pass, and it doesn't sound right. Grants Pass, yeah, I have. I spent a month there.
You came down from Grants Pass, didn't you?
That's the way to do it. Exactly. Yeah, all these good old boys, they come down from the mountains in their pickup truck and pick up their supplies once a month. Those people.
They're the ones that support. That's Trump country down there. They're right old good old boys. They know how to do that.
And I believe that they do that because there's a thing in Oregon. There's a special weather phenomenon. I can't remember quite what it is, but they've determined that come the nuclear war, this particular place in Oregon has the sort of the wind cycle that will protect them more than anywhere else. That's their belief anyway.
And also for pandemics, it was meant to be one of the last places for a pandemic to reach, that sort of stuff. Eastern Oregon, the boondocks of nowhere.
It's the cleanest place I think I've ever been. And the biggest culture shock of my entire life to this moment was going from living in a shack in the middle of nowhere in Oregon, taking a car down the coast and getting out in the middle of Los Angeles. I could barely breathe. I thought I was going to die. I really did.
You appreciate the EPA at that stage, right?
It was absolutely extraordinary. It seemed to me that the air was so thick you could barely see to the other side of the road, and I felt like I needed oxygen.
Well, Oregon is... the air in Oregon is... except in fire season, it is pretty good.
Clean and pristine, yeah. And the stars, you walk out into the countryside and you look up, and it was absolutely astonishing. I could see the Milky Way for the first time ever, really, before or since.
Yeah, that's how because I live down in Sutherland. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No.
It's halfway up between Grants Pass and Eugene.
Yeah, Grants Pass. Mm-hmm.
And Shelbyville, which is where they say Springfield, but I call it Shelbyville because Eugene rather is Shelbyville because this is the original Springfield from the cartoons.
Well, from the Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that in every state that has a Springfield.
Yeah,
they also say it in
Skinner's Butte.
Well, they also say it in Illinois. So.
Yeah, but we got Skinner's Butte, and Matt Groening was from Portland, so it's like there's a bunch of local stuff that you notice in the show, and you go, oh yeah,
okay, all right. So
Springfield and Shelbyville is like the posh people would be in Eugene next door,
right? Eugene, yeah.
Which is, so we have very close two totally different cultures because Eugene is very left wing. And Springfield is very right-wing.
Right.
It's very pro-Trump.
And Klamath...
So you do see...
Klamath Falls, right there in the middle, I bet.
Oh, that's as far to the right, I think, as you could possibly get
right?
in Oregon these days.
Okay.
I think they're the ones that want to become part of Idaho. They're like, oh, yeah, we want to separate from Oregon because there's too many liberals growing weed here, so we want to be part of Idaho.
So since Joe Biden dropped out, has there been a detectable change in the air?
Yeah, people seem to be a little less... I don't know. I think it's too early to think that they've won by a long stretch. But people at least feel there's more hope.
Yes,
I think
exactly right. Yeah,
I supported Biden because his policies, essentially, everyone says, "What's Kamala Harris? What was she going to say? What her policies?" And I'm like, as long as she carries on the economic policies she's already got and stuff like that, then we're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
we don't really need to change course on this ship. We just need to keep this.
Keep it going. Exactly. Yeah, America is outperforming, I think, any other country on Earth. So you're doing. You're in a good place there, Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, good.
But people don't recognise that.
No, they don't. Well, no, nobody wants to bank the happiness they've got. They keep yearning for the happiness they don't have. Yeah. All right, good to talk to you, Andrew. Thanks for that. A message from I was going to say I was going to mistakenly say the Deep South or the middle of. I was sort of going for middle of America, but it's way out there on the edge. Let's see now. These are messages from last night. Carol says, pensioners, don't you dare get rid of my winter fuel payment. She's not saying pensioners don't get rid of it. She introduces the topic, pensioners, don't you dare get rid of my winter fuel payment. Energy is just too expensive. Also, pensioners, how dare you build solar and wind farms near me to bring down electricity prices? Right, okay, that was a little bit complicated, but I get it now. It makes sense now. She's saying, she's basically pointing out the dichotomy in the mind of pensioners. Because on the one hand, they want cheaper fuel, and on the other hand, they don't want no solar or wind farms. Not now, not ever, never. Because that's magic stuff. That is. That's the energy of the devil. That is. Pat says, hoping pensioners will be okay this winter, but also wondering if they will ever be able to retire or get a pension, or if the planet will still be in existence when I get to pension age, says Pat. Well, it very much depends on how old you are, Pat. If you're very, very old, then probably the planet will still exist, yes. But if you're a teenager, then I would make other arrangements. Is there anywhere on another planet you could spend some time? Frank says, buying a survival blanket to help me get through winter. Thanks, Keir. Anybody want to take a bet that they don't go through with removing the winter fuel allowance? I bet they don't. I'm kind of surprised that they blurted it out in the first place. I mean, what a bizarre thing to say. As a policy, the first thing we're going to do is punish everybody that voted for us. Actually, maybe not. Maybe they're punishing the people who voted for the other side, which would make more sense. They wanted more of
this government.
And now you're going to get punished. I bet he doesn't do it. I bet they find some money down the back of the number 10 sofa and they give us the good news. I mean, pensioners are put upon in this country more than any other country of economic equal. God, what a mangled sentence that was. Shall I try that again?
No.
Pensioners have a really bad deal in this country. One of the worst state pensions of any country that could describe itself as the part of the first world. I don't know why they put up with it. Just before I go to the news, I'll read this on that subject. Sam says, I find it odd that poor elderly people struggle so much and they're so weak and will be so cold, yet they'll soon manage to get to the polling station to vote Tory. Also, they should stop spending so much money on having their hair done. Then they'll afford their bills, just like young people can't have a Costa anymore. Yes. Some people won't like having that ball batted back at them.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Thank you for holding. Your call is important to us.
Yes, thank you for holding, Saul. Your call is important to me. You're in Tottenham.
Oh, yeah.
You know that.
Oh, can you hear me?
No.
Oh. Okay. All right, well, look, it's a very boring story, but it's quite funny because I thought it's one of these stories you might enjoy. So basically, I have had a very unfortunate set of incredibly minor infractions in my driving in the last, year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to reinsure.
Now, when you say minor, what does that mean?
Well, I opened my car door in a car park, and that bumped into someone's door, and that was like £2,000. Just happened to be a brand new Tesla. Very unfortunate.
How hard must you open a door to cost £2,000 worth of damage?
Yes. I didn't see any damage, but it still cost £2,000. But moving on. And then I went 2 miles an hour over a 2-mile stretch of the average speed limit on a 3-lane dual carriageway. That was very unfortunate.
Guilty.
And then my motorbike got stolen by some young ruffians, and they took it 10 metres around the corner, and I found it 3 days later and reported it. And then because I reported it, that obviously up I was a high risk. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I went to reinsure my van. I drive a van. I went to reinsure it, and it was it's £2,000, ridiculous money. And then this new company popped up. It was called the I don't want to say the name of the company, but it was called the Something Black Box. And I thought, I've never heard of the Something Black Box. It's like a new company, So I just thought, and it was half the price. It was more than half the price. It was £800.
Yeah.
So I just clicked on it. I thought, great, I've got a good deal. And then the guy rings me up and goes, yeah, you got Something Black Box. And I thought, is this for real? Have I really got this great deal, after all these... Anyway, so then I get a call about 2 weeks later saying, right, we've got an engineer coming round to fit a black box in your vehicle. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you've opted for the black box thing.
Saul, did you, when you ticked, I've read the terms and conditions...
No, I didn't read them.
You didn't read them?
No.
But then, to be fair, no one ever reads the terms and conditions.
I didn't read the terms and conditions.
No.
And so basically, right, so this engineer turns up. This engineer turns up, and he's like, I'm going to fit a black box. He says, that's unusual. He says, I normally fit these black boxes to new drivers. You're 40-something. He says, I never do this normally. I said, what do you mean? He says, what does this black box do?
Yeah.
And he says, it's great. He says, it measures your speed, your driving, your braking, your time, everything, right? Everything. He says, and you get a report on your driving every couple of weeks.
A report? Now, what kind of a report? Marks out of 10? How does it look?
That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be... No. I get a report, an email, right, on my driving, and it comes through, and it says, well done on your smoothness. It was a little bit better this week. You need to be little... And then it gives you, think about how you brake, think about how you this. And then it talks about my timing and my speed limits and everything. And I thought, this is fantastic. I've got my... And anyway, that now I've actually become... I'm not the sort of person that would respond to this.
You look forward to your update.
Oh, yeah. And I just was like, this is great.
But when you're behind the wheel, are you thinking, oh, I better not do this or that because it will block my copy?
That is in the back of my mind. Yes.
And I'm just thinking about that phrase, blot my copy. And it sounds like something my dad would have said. And I've absolutely no idea what it means. What does that mean? Well, I know what it means, but I don't know what it refers to.
It would blot your report from the little black box company, you know. And I mean, my speed is 100% brilliant because you can't move any more than 8 miles an hour in London. Everything's 20 miles an hour, so my speed's great. And, you know, anyway, I just thought it's funny because the funniest thing was I had no idea what I'd opted for until the engineer turned up. I just had no idea what was going on. If it
sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. I think that everybody should have that. It seems to me that that's our future, that every car will come with a black box and you won't be able to stray over the speed limit and you won't be able to turn left when it's a no entry sign and all of that sort of stuff. We're going to be monitored from space permanently, and a giant spike will be embedded in the driver's seat. And as soon as you make the slightest mistake, big trouble, huge. All right, thanks a lot, Saul. 0345 6060 973. We're talking about people who don't use their phone to make phone calls anymore. And last night, and Kevin says, you're so right. I call my son all the time. And he sends a text straight back saying, Daddy, what up? You calling me? I don't get it, says Kevin. Yeah, that's mystifying. So his phone is ringing, and rather than answer the phone, he texts the person that's ringing him to say, you're calling me? Yeah, pick up the phone, you idiot. It is quite alarming, isn't it? And it's so extraordinarily fast, the way everything has changed, that I don't think that the human mind can possibly keep up with the speed at which technology is changing. I mean, we've got space-age technology and caveman brains. And this difference, this total change in the way we interact with each other, is the fastest thing that we have probably ever had to deal with, the fastest change in the way we act in the history of humankind. Think of another one. I mean, Bronze Age, Stone Age, other ages are available. All of those things took forever, very, very slow, and we got used to them very slowly. Same with the motor car. Everybody didn't have one all at the same time. You saw one every now and again, and it seemed like there was a maniac at the wheel because they were going over 5 miles an hour, and there wasn't a bloke in the front waving a red flag to warn pedestrians. But that all happened very, very slowly too. In the Industrial Revolution, just creeped on us very slowly. But this mobile phone, and social media, and the way in which we communicate with each other now, it's just been it's been instant like lightning. And I wonder what the ramifications of that are, because at the moment we seem to be, bumbling along okay, I suppose. But you do note that, you go to a pub and there'll be a table of 4 or 5 people and none of them are talking to each other. They're all staring at their phones, communicating with their thumbs to people who aren't there, which is weird, isn't it? I saw a video of a concert just the other day. And the extraordinary thing about it was... Oh, no, it wasn't a concert. It was Jeremy Deller, who's an artist, and he was talking about rave culture. And he was talking about rave culture to a classroom of political students. And I think it was school. They'd chosen politics as part of their 6th form studies or something like that. And it was an exhibition in London. If you want to go, it's at 180 The Strand. And it was very, very good. And one of the things that people in the class really commented on were films of people at raves. People were dancing in fields and going to clubs like Shoom and all of that. Dance culture in the late 80s and 90s, which caused the authorities to have a moral panic, which they tend to do every 10 years with youth culture, teddy boys and punks and rave and all of that. And the one thing that really sort of struck the kids in the class was that the videos of people, going mental in fields, no one had a mobile phone. Everybody was in the moment. Nobody was recording it so that they can watch the grainy, wobbly footage later on or put it up the internet for likes. Oh, that's nice. I like that. And, I'm famous because I'm trending and all this nonsense. Not one single person had a camera out or a recording device of any kind. They were just there. And all they took from it was memories and probably a 3-day come down. But the time between then and now is the blink of an eye. But we've changed the way that we communicate with each other. The human race has changed the way it communicates with other humans completely. And I just think that maybe the ramifications of this haven't quite hit us yet. That we seem to have just shrugged and got on with it, and nothing appears to have changed for the worse. Not really. But maybe it actually will do, because it's a bit fast, don't you think? Answers on I want you, the essay that you will be writing on this subject, I want on my desk first thing Monday morning. All right. Oh, but sir, it's a bank holiday. 0345 6060 973. Orpington. Hello, Tony.
Hello, Nick.
Tony.
Don't even get me started on social media, because that stuff, I'm on Instagram, it appalls me. Do you know what? You're right. It does.
Instagram?
Yeah, I know. I don't follow Twitter, but Instagram. I just have a few followers and I follow a few people. But you're right. I'm not called up about this, but you were just talking about social media. I'll tell you what. In 15, 20 years' time, if it carries on how it is, we're all going to be everyone's going to be on these rocking chairs, cross-eyed, just going back and forth. Yeah. We're all going to be brain dead.
Well, I think that there's a physical. I think that the mental ramifications. I'm not sure that we've actually experienced yet or have dealt with. That may never happen. We might just absorb all this and just carry on regardless. Or there may be down the line an enormous amount of trouble, socially and personally, mentally, whatever, that is being built up here. I think that is entirely possible.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit too late now. No, I'm in my mid-30s, but people don't meet, if you think like that generation, like the people who are in like their early 20s, late teens, they didn't meet people how we used to do. And the last 10 to 15 years has just been, the change has been phenomenal.
Yes,
and
that's
they
exactly
can't communicate.
Right.
Yeah, it's scary.
How do you meet your significant other these days? Not at work, not really, because of all the rules and regulations about fraternising at work. That's right out. Don't do that. And they don't meet them in pubs. Clubs is not as much of a thing as it ever was. They're all sitting at home, staring at a screen and swiping left or right, whichever it is. Which is that's not a human way to contact each other, and it's also a bit. I don't know. It seems a bit like ordering something on the internet. It's a bit soulless, isn't it? I mean, you're in a club and your eyes meet across the dance floor, and you have a little wiggle with each other. And then you go off and have hot personal relations.
Disgusting.
But that's the way it used to be. But people don't do that anymore. And I think that we haven't actually dealt with that as a species yet. Maybe we'll just carry on regardless. But maybe we're creating something to trip over. We just don't know it's there yet.
Totally agree. But I remember going to my club in my early 20s, and I had a great time meeting people, but people just don't do that now. And the thing is, these people, in 15, 20, 25 years' time, they're going to be the ones running the world, and that's scary.
Well, what's scary? Hang on a minute. But what is, just to finish that thought, what is scary is that they're going to be the ones who are bringing up the children of the next generation.
No. I know. Yeah. Thanks. Oh no, it blows my mind. And the hardest thing is, like, if you speak to anyone under the age of, shall we say, 30 now, you just can't have a conversation with them. And that's no offence. But I know you're
no
quick to a break.
Right?
Yeah. No offence, Nick.
Yeah.
It was. Now I have to apologise. Now, if Dan from New Jersey is listening, all I've got to say to him is balderdash.
Yes.
But thanks for his call yesterday. Anyway, it was your birthday on Thursday, and wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And I should say thank you very, very much to people who sent a card and presents. I got all sorts of nice things, so I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes. Now, I really want to get that. So I'll be trying to. Now, I'm into like star signs and stuff. Like, I'm a Cancer.
Oh,
I share my birthday with. I share my birthday with Princess Diana. Now, you've got a really good one. I looked it up. Can you believe that? I've had a conversation with you before.
Yeah.
You share your birthday with Dua Lipa, one of my favourites.
Dua Lipa, right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, I saw Dua Lipa leaping around on the stage at Glastonbury, and it was like, I thought...
What about the Sugar Babes? They were there.
Oh, come on, Tony.
No,
I'm not 12.
No, they were amazing. You need to watch that.
I don't need to watch it, and I don't want to, and you can't make me.
Yeah, I can't. Right, now, the main point I wanted to talk about was Tom Daley. Apparently, he's going to be a third Tom Daley, and do you know what? Listen to this.
Wait a minute. Wait. He's going to be Sir Tom Daley.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the royal family or the Institute, but I love the Queen, I like Prince Harry, and I love Princess Diana.
Yeah.
But if anyone can be a Sir, he should be. Do you know why?
Why? Because he knits.
Yeah, he's good at it. But he was the only one who'd come close to trying to beat the Chinese at diving.
Oh.
And also... no, he's just fabulous. And also, he's great because, at the age of 19, he come out and he said he fell in love with someone, and that person was a man. And do you know what? I don't want to get emotional because I've had a relationship breakdown in the last 18 months, and it's affected me a lot. And it's people like him. He's done so much. It's not just for the sport, but it's for that reason. And he lost his dad at a very young age, and I think he was competing for Britain, like at the age of 12 or 14. And he's just great. And Noah Williams, I want to have a big shout out to him because that dive they did in the Olympics to secure him, I think it was the bronze, was just incredible. And I love the diving commentator on BBC. So it's going to be Sir Tom Daley, and I'm not a fan of the Institute, but I think he deserves it.
All right. Okay, that's an unsolicited testimonial. Thanks a lot, Tony.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
And remember, darling, I don't work before 10 in the morning and never after 4:30 in the afternoon.
Those are my strict rules. Sir Tom Daley, that doesn't really ring right with me. I mean, he's just not old enough, is he? You have to be a certain age and have to have achieved a certain amount over time in your life before you can carry around a Sir, I think. In much the same way that you have to have reached a certain age and achieved a certain amount in life before you can sit in the House of Lords. Wouldn't you say, Boris?
I can't comment on that.
You can't comment on that? Blah, 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 blah. John says, here in British Columbia, the provincial government once ran a brilliant anti-tailgating public service commercial that showed one pedestrian aggressively and comically shuffling absurdly close behind another pedestrian. A voiceover said, you wouldn't walk like that. Why would you drive like that? One of the best public service commercials ever. I've seen something similar to that, and it struck me as being particularly good, yeah. Let's have Belfast. Hello, Brendan.
Oh, that's your birthday, another way. That's your birthday, another way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Over the years, I've heard you often talk about people viewing the world through their mobile phones, missing concerts and great events and everything else.
Yes.
And I sort of agree with you. And I always think that some of my greatest memories have been listening to the radio, and the radio erases the need or the opportunity to use a mobile phone except to speak. to whoever's doing the show. So, I remember Elvis Dan on Radio Luxembourg. He wasn't singing when it happened, but, I remember...
I was in Germany at the time, and I put on the German television, and all of these people were crying, but they were crying, and then they were dubbed in German. And I'm like, why are all these people crying? And I had no idea what they were talking about, and it was in German, and every now and again they said, Elvis. And I thought, right.
Well, it's obvious that the Germans have learned to cry differently. It's open to interpretation. But the thing about the radio for me is that you can do other things. You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can clean, wash the car, cook, run about the house. We can do anything.
Yes.
But you can't use your mobile phone to capture that memory. It just has to resonate in your mind. So, that's what's one of the beauties of radio to me. You have to listen. Whereas if you're watching TV or anything else, you have to sit down on your bum and do nothing else.
Yes.
You have to focus on that one thing.
Right.
Whereas the radio gives you freedom.
Well, it's not a visual medium, but it sort of oddly very much is, because you create the visuals in your mind.
Exactly. Yes, well, that's what I think. Now, could I quickly just say, the reason I really rang was that this week or last week, I'm not sure, to be quite honest, you always talk about a guy that you stole his format from.
Yeah.
An American guy who has inspired you and everything else.
Yes.
Well, here we had this guy called Jerry Anderson. Please let me say this. This guy is...
Jerry Anderson, he did the Thunderbirds.
No. Well, that would be my first... if someone said Jerry Anderson to me, that would be my first thought as well.
Right.
No, this was a radio presenter. He went to Radio 4 for quite some time, but they didn't get him. And he's dead 10 years this week, and someone has made a claymation of that. That's a clay animation, like... No, not like Thunderbird. That's not... Claymation is not Thunderbird. But yeah, claymation. Yeah, clay animation. No. Claymation. Like Shaun the Sheep. Exactly. Or the guy that eats the cheese.
Yeah, the smashing cheese, Gromit. That guy.
Yeah, Gromit. Wallace and Gromit. Yes.
Right.
So someone has made... they're only 3 minutes long each. But there's about 20 of them on the iPlayer.
Oh, yeah.
And they're real calls that Jerry Anderson has taken. And someone has created a claymation or whatever it is.
That must take forever.
Yeah, but he is royalty. And I'm sure you've never heard of him. But... it's not homework. Please don't regard it as homework.
Yeah. You're just pointing me in the right direction. Okay, I'll look it up.
It's called On the Air.
Right.
Air. A-I-R.
Okay, On the Air.
On the Air.
Yeah, on the Air, every Air.
Nick, you will, I can assure you, with your sense of humour and your intellect...
I'll love it.
You will...
Love it.
You may not love it, but you'll like it a lot.
I'll like it. All right. Good work. Thanks a lot, Brendan. Let's see. Messages from last night. I'll read these 3, and then that'll be it for last night, and then I can get on to tonight. Let me see how many from tonight I've got. Oh, my God. I'm going to be here all night. Sue says, why do the older generation always get blamed for Brexit? Isn't your vote private? How does anybody know? My husband and I did not vote for Brexit. It was crazy to leave the EU, says Sue. Oh, I believe you, Sue. I believe you. Simon says, regarding Dubai. Yeah, we were talking about Dubai. Oh, my God, I saw the weather forecast in, I think it might have been Dubai, one of those places over there, and it was 137 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't ask me what that is in European surrender centigrade, but in His Majesty's Fahrenheit, it was 137 degrees. And that was at midnight. Not in the middle of the day. At midnight, 137, which is borderline livable for a human being. 137 degrees at midnight. Why would anybody go there? And that's what Simon's saying. He says, reference Dubai, I've been there and I'm with you. Why would anybody fly over France and Italy to go to Dubai? It mystifies me. It genuinely does. I think the people there spent a lot of money on trying to get celebrities to go there. I mean, they must have thrown free everything out. I think they gave them free houses, didn't they? And that's why you got footballers and all of the rest of it getting photographed in Dubai. And then curious punters followed along. But why you would want to do that is, I just cannot fathom it. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. If you're on WhatsApp, it's 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hello.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
Yeah, I've read that Keir Starmer speech so that you don't have to. And it's a bit light on detail. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. But it doesn't really tell us anything that he's going to do. This is the speech that I've had this speech in my hand since 10 o'clock, but I have not been able to tell you about it since before 10:30. It would be against the law for me to have said even a single word from this speech before 10:30. And 10:30 came and went, and I thought, but as it's part of the news, I'll sum it up for you. Because that's I mean, I could spend the next 15 minutes reading it out, but there's no point because there's not really very much in it. I mean, it goes on a bit, and the it of it is, gosh, everything's awful. It's essentially that. I'll read the first part. I said that change would not happen overnight. When there is rot deep in the heart of a structure, you can't just cover it up. You can't tinker with it or rely on quick fixes. You have to overhaul the entire thing, tackle it at the root, even if it's harder work and it takes more time. Because otherwise, what happens? The rot returns in all the same places and it spreads worse than before. You know that and I know that. That's why this project has been about fixing the foundations of this country. It's why I've unlocked planning decisions to build 1.5 million new homes. It's why we've set up British Energy to create good jobs and cut people's bills. And it's why we've ended the strikes that have crippled our country. And it goes on and on like that. But essentially, that space hippie off the telly, you know the space hippie off the telly? Oh, look at the stars. They're amazing. That guy. He's going to have to rewrite that song. Things will only get worse before they get better. That's essentially the message that Keir Starmer's going to give on Tuesday. Cheer up, Keir. It might never Oh, no. That's right. It already has. But they looked under the bonnet of the country and thought, blimey, who's been driving this? They haven't had it serviced since they bought it. Or rather, since some shady tax-avoiding billionaire bought it for them. So don't expect things to improve overnight. It's essentially the message from Skier, who, by the way, is guilty of caticide. You heard me. Downing Street officials have drawn up plans for when Chief Mouser Larry the Cat dies. Codenamed Larry Bridges, preparations have been quietly put in place for when the 17-year-old passes away. Larry the Cat has been the one constant resident at number 10, and now Keir Starmer is killing that cat. Is there nothing that man won't do to ruin this country? Larry, the number 10 cat, has been there and seen 6 Prime Ministers come and go, from David Cameron to Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. And it is highly suspicious that after all those loving and caring Conservative Prime Ministers, only now are we hearing about the imminent death of Larry the cat at the hands of Keir, the cat killer. Officials have now ironed out details as to how to break the news to the nation when the sad moment arrives. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral plans were codenamed Operation London Bridge, while the plans for the King's death are known as Operation Menai Bridge, after the strait in Wales. Larry's imminent death is codenamed Larry Bridges. Larry's official role is described as inspecting security defences and testing antique furniture for napping quality, as well as contemplating a solution to the mouse occupancy of the house. Not shy with his attitude towards politicians, says the Mail. The famous feline also gave a short-lived Prime Minister Liz Truss the cold shoulder.
That is a disgrace.
That is one smart cat. Since Skier entered the black door, the black door, Larry has been joined by the Labour leader's rescue cat, Jojo. And I wouldn't imagine that Larry was very pleased about that. Responding online to speculation about his funeral plans, Larry's parody account, which has over 800,000 followers, suggested he would like to be stuffed and placed above a fireplace at number 10 as a reminder to future MPs not to do anything stupid. You know, like the Lizbot.
Absolutely.
It'll be a reminder not to do anything that Mr. Blobby might have done, you know.
The great big greedy nincompoop.
The great big greedy nincompoop. 0345 6060 973. Heston, Isaac.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I am great, mate.
Okay, 3 quick things. Number 1, Keir Starmer and Liz Truss.
Yes.
Number 2, who I share a birthday with, inspired by a previous caller.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3, my disco and rave years, as you mentioned it. I had to phone in. So,
right.
Anyway.
Carry on.
Keir Starmer and Liz Truss. Well, Keir Starmer has now exceeded Liz Truss's 49 days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, congratulations. This is anniversary of beating the letters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, right, I'd like to mention that Keir Starmer, right, has seen off 3 Conservative Prime Ministers, okay? Okay, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. So that's a nice little hat-trick for him.
You mean as the leader of the opposition?
Yes, exactly. As the leader of the opposition, yes.
Nutshell.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And finally, on Liz Truss, right.
No, you've done Liz Truss already.
A couple of book reviews on 10 years to save the West, right?
Yeah. I think I did that last week, didn't I?
Yeah, I've seen a few.
No, I did that last. Yeah, I did that last week. Book reviews of Liz Truss's book, 10 Years to Save the West. All right, go ahead.
Okay, right. Last sentence of Ian Dale. Okay, I read it in 2 sittings and found it unputdownable. Right.
Wait a minute. Hang on. That doesn't make sense. He read it in 2 sittings. What? So he carried it around with him between sittings 1 and 2?
Rob, I presume so.
Well, that makes no sense. Get Ian Dale on the phone right now. I mean it. He has a lot of explaining to do.
Robert Peston says a gripping read. Right. And the final one, right, this is the final one, right, from Gary Kasparov, who I think was a chess player back in the 70s.
Yes, chess master, yeah.
It says, she asked the right questions with an intellectual boldness rarely seen in modern politics.
Wow.
So there you go.
I tell you what, I'll read the cover, but that's as far as I go.
Right. Okay, number 2. Right.
Hang on a minute. I thought we'd done 1, 2, and we were sailing into number 3. But that was all. All of that was number 1.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Blimey.
So, number 2. I'll be quick. Right. Inspired by a previous caller this evening.
Yeah.
Who I share a birthday with. Right.
Go
on. Sybil Shepherd of Moonlighting.
Yes.
Okay.
Sybil the Soothsayer. Mm-hmm.
That's right, yeah. John Travolta, which for me is very appropriate, when you look at my youth, okay?
Is this? Is it, though?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Really? Could you actually wait a minute, could you pull off those moves? I don't know anything about you, Isaac, but I'm going to guess not.
No, well, not now. I can't. God, I walk with a Zimmer frames.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't try any of that now. No, but then,
yes, I could. Yes, I could.
The bit. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The bit where he goes onto his, he folds his knees together, and then he's up on his feet again, and then he folds his knees together on the floor, and he's up on his feet again. You could do that.
Oh, that bit? No, that bit. No, I couldn't.
Okay.
Okay.
I saw that film just recently, and I thought, before it started, I thought this is going to be really dated, and the bits in the club, the disco dancing moves, are going to seem a bit silly. But you know what? They don't. They really stand up.
Absolutely. The third one is I share a birthday with Greta Skarshi. Okay.
Yeah. Is this just a list of famous people that you share birthdays with? That doesn't have any relation to anything other than coincidence?
Yeah, and the final one, okay, after final one...
I do believe that you are in fact completely ignoring me, but go ahead.
Is Carol McGiffin. I share a birthday with her.
You share a birthday with Carol McGiffin?
What?
When's that then? I should know that, shouldn't I?
Oh, right, okay. I'll let you ask Carol McGiffin, but what I will say...
No, I'm not going to ask... I am not going to ask Carol McGiffin when her birthday is, because she'll think I'm buying her something, and she didn't buy me nothing for mine.
Oh, right, yeah.
So she gets nothing from me.
Yeah, me, Carol McGiffin, and Greta Skarshi were born on the same day to the year.
Wow,
so
that is fascinating information, Isaac.
Right.
One moment while I write that down. Go ahead.
Right, and the final one, your previous caller, you were talking about back in the day that during the rave days, no one had a mobile phone because they were in the moment, which
Correct,
is true.
Amundo.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of them from a disco era right through to my rave days. We didn't have mobile phones.
No.
And
we were all the better for it. Yeah.
Yes, I have. I have lots of memories. I had a long disco and rave career. I think it lasted at least 15 years, from my late teens to my early 30s.
Career.
So, yeah, because I refused to grow up and settle down. You see, I just wanted to rave and party.
I don't think anybody should grow up. We should just end this whole this growing up nightmare. If we all stayed just with the wonder of children for a little longer, a couple of decades perhaps, then I think the world would be a better place. Isaac, it's been an inspiration and very, very educational. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Thanks for that.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
Some messages. Ahmed says, I read online that Farage is going to America again in September to speak at a conference where table reservations are around £38,000 each. What? Why would Americans pay that much money to listen to Farage promote Clacton on Sea? To promote Clacton, yeah. Just asking questions, says Ahmed. He's just curious. Jim says, regarding last night's conversation about the band Pendulum, I think the other band with a similar name you were trying to recall were Pentangle. Yes, that's right. Not Ponderous or Pendulous, Pentangle. He says they had a hit in the late 60s with the song Light Flight, which was used as the introductory music to the TV series Take Three Girls, which sounds like something that you wouldn't be able to put on TV these days. I have no idea what Take Three Girls is, but it sounds like it'd be banned today. And Light Flight, I question that they had a hit with it. I don't remember that at all. Pentangle. This Flight Tonight, I remember.
Rock and roll!
But that was Nazareth. Bum-ba-da-dum. That. What a track. But no, I don't know nothing about Pendulum or Pentangle or any of those P bands. I think basically there shouldn't be any band, and I'll stop myself before I get to the end of that sentence because I just remember Pink Floyd. So just pretend I'd never said anything. Let's have, let me see now. Devon. Hello, Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick. Pink
Rose.
Floyd's a great name.
It is a very, very good name, yes.
It is, yes. I've just rung about the whole...
And by the way, which one's pink?
Yes. I don't know how to answer that, Nick.
Yeah, you don't have to, no.
Oh, good. Well, just two things. The first thing is about the internet. Because of what you were saying, I thought, well, I can tell you this. You know how... I was thinking about it, you see, some time ago, and you know how you... dear, how can I put this? You don't have to get up and ferret about amongst your books to find something out. You just have to Google it. And you don't have to pop down the post office, pay the electricity bill, maybe bump into somebody outside and have a chat.
Right.
You can just pay it online and you can text them. And everything, absolutely everything. Like, you don't have to respond to the band when you're there. You video it again on your smartphone. And I was thinking, you see, about what it is about me, why I find such an aversion to all this. I haven't got a smartphone, and I thought, if I have it, it terrifies me, or a tablet with all that information on, and everything concertinaed down into this small space. And I thought, why is it? Why there's such an aversion? And then I suddenly thought, it reminds me of something. I thought, oh my God, coercive control. You know how those guys, usually guys, isn't it? They say to the person, "Oh, you don't need to go and meet them. You've just got me." Heaven's sake! Now, what's on your phone? Let's see where you've been. No, you don't need to go there. You've got me.
You don't need to meet your friends.
No. You don't need to go to the library, you silly girl. I've got lots of books here for you.
I think for a lot of people, what we're talking about is solitary confinement, but self-inflicted.
And what happens, you see, this whole thing about people not wanting to answer the phone or ring, I think that it becomes frightening because they don't know where the conversation's going to go. And that, again, sort of is rather like... Because girls become actually scared of going to meet someone. Because they get so used to this kind of confinement. It might be the other way. Oh, it might be man on man. I know, I just happen to know a girl, it's happened to.
People are not used to socialising as they used to be. Now, society hasn't fallen apart yet. It's almost as though nothing really has happened, and yet this massive change, this revolution has taken place, and it's been faster and more comprehensive than any revolution that has ever happened to the human race. And that we've just sort of gone along with it and sort of blasted through it without impediment or without it really affecting us seemingly in any way. I don't really buy that.
No,
because it's so revolutionary. There must be some kind of consequence waiting for us. Now, it might be that we are not really equipped because of this to bring up the future generations as parents. I think that might have an effect, but that we just absorbed it and carried on. I don't quite buy that.
No, I feel it's got to have an effect on the brain because the brain is operating so differently. And this whole thing of the outside world, I mean, I'm guessing now, but it could start to become scary. And the idea of having a conversation, people used to ring. I mean, I've got out of the habit because I text, somebody would ring, and I'd think, oh, I wonder who that is. And, unless I was on the way out or really engaged in something important, oh, hello.
And that's the thing, though. I wonder who that is. Yeah, I wonder who that... You'd have to pick the phone up before you knew who it was.
Well, yes, and then you say, oh, great, and you wouldn't know where this conversation was going. You'd go off on tangents, and that was the joy of it. But I think people are frightened of tangents now, sort of thing.
Well, people have become unused to coincidences.
Spontaneity.
And spontaneity, quite right, yeah. I mean, the thing that you said at the beginning about going out to the post office to put a check in, we don't do that anymore. We do it online. We do it in our bedroom. We can go the entire day. We can go shopping and we can go to the bank and we can book a holiday and look up information that you would get in the library and all that sort of stuff. And we don't even need to leave our bedrooms. We meet no one.
I've just realised, no. So your whole being is sort of shrinking, isn't it? And I mean, that's the effect that...
As are your horizons, because all of those events that we just described would be places in which you met people by coincidence.
Exactly.
And you could, and I'm sure that this would be true for a vast percentage of the human race, you would meet your significant other, your life partner. You happen to be waiting in a queue in the post office and you exchanged a glance and you had a cup of tea and the next thing you know, you're a granddad with 6 kids.
Yes, I met mine. I mean, it didn't last forever, but I saw him in the band and edged closer, and there we were. I tell you what, can I just tell you something else?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was last week. I was on hold, and you must listen back to yourself, because it was after 11:30, it would have been.
Yeah.
And you launched into Nige and Trump and Clapton, and you went on, and the more you went on, the more hilarious it was. This is a compliment, really, to be honest.
Huh.
I was incapacitated with hysteria. I was weak. I thought, if he comes, West Devon, hello Rose now, I'll just go, I was wheezing with hysteria. It was so funny. I wished you had, actually. It would have been great, wouldn't it?
Well, there's no doubt about it, Rose. I am fantastic. Don't forget that.
Yes.
Well, I'll appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Rose.
Okay, mate.
Okay, cheers, my dear. There you are. That's how it's done. You talk to somebody on the phone, for crying out loud. All of those opportunities to meet people, meet friends that will become your closest friends ever, all of that's gone. There's no chance meetings anymore. Well, that's an overstatement. Of course it is. But as a percentage, far fewer than there were 10 years ago, 15, certainly 20 years ago. It's happened in one generation. And I just don't buy that we've just taken all of this sci-fi technology on board and have just carried on and just without affecting us negatively. Although physically it has. And I wonder what it's going to be like for the kids that have now developed a stoop, because I see this all the time. There'll be some teenager and he's staring down at his phone and he's got an old man's neck. There's this angle where it shouldn't be until he's 70, 80 years old. Bent over double because they spend their entire time staring down at their phone. So that is a physical representation of what's happened. Not representation, consequence of what's happened. There must be mental consequences as well. There has to be. Because we have caveman brains and sci-fi technology. And we can't just absorb that and carry on and completely change the way we socialise without there being some sort of consequence. And that there hasn't really been any yet. Society hasn't fallen apart. People are still kind of rubbing along together. Nothing really has changed that much, apart from the way we go about our daily lives. I just don't believe that we could take all that and just carry on and nothing happens, other than you get an old person's stoop. But I guess we'll find out, won't we? Isn't it exciting? Lorraine says, have you ever been to Amsterdam? Yes, Lorraine. Ages ago. I hadn't until last week, and I had long suspected that it was wildly overrated, says Lorraine. How right I... That's not where I thought this was going. How right I was, she says.
What?
What do you mean? She says it absolutely reeked of weed and wee, with piles of stinking rubbish everywhere. Well, it sounds like you were staying in a lovely area. Awful, she says. Couldn't get out of the place quick enough. What did you do there? I mean, there's no end of they've got some of the world's most impressive galleries there. I mean, the endless walking around canals, the places to eat and sit and drink coffee, and it's just endlessly marvellous. Don't expect parks, though, because they've got one park in the middle, as far as I can recall, and it's pretty dreadful. But other than that, I mean, if you like museums and galleries, it's a fantastic place. Anyway, she says couldn't get out of the place quick enough. By comparison, The Hague was a delight, as was the beach there. Who knew? And a little place called Delft was absolutely glorious, with beautiful streets and cafes, town squares with green trees. Green trees, can you imagine that? And lovely bars to sit at with a cold beer and watch the world go by. Very highly recommended. I think you'd love it, says Lorraine. Yeah, okay. But what do you do in Delft other than sit and eat and drink? Ditto The Hague. I mean, I'm not a beach person, and neither, I would imagine, is, even if I was, I very much doubt that I would go to a beach in Holland, the Netherlands. Unless there's something indoors that is fascinating, by which I mean museums and galleries and buildings and whatever, then I would refuse to go to a holiday destination that's colder than the one that I'm leaving. I just won't do it. I don't want to, and you can't make me. David says, I'm in Glasgow tonight and it's not raining currently, but it being Glasgow, it means it could change at any moment. Keep us updated, David. Peter says, what's happening to Larry the cat? Well, bad news. Larry the cat survived an enormous number of prime ministers. There was this chump.
I think this is nonsense.
There was Mrs. M. I don't have anything for Mrs. M. There was this chump.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
There was this chump.
Absolutely.
And this chump.
This government.
And Larry the cat is being killed on the orders of Keir Starmer. Can you believe that? And even if that's not a fact, it doesn't prevent it from being true.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
You're joking.
0345 6060 973. Let me see now. Looks like Canary Wharf. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, Nick.
Ryan.
Hello. I wasn't listening last night, actually, because I had a little bit too much 14% wine.
Mm-hmm.
But was it your birthday recently, talking of birthdays?
Yeah.
Ah, happy birthday.
Thanks.
So I wanted to talk to you about driving tests.
Yes.
Because I've called you before about my driving tests, but I don't think I've given you much of the detail. But I think the whole probationary license thing is a good idea, especially considering the near accident from my tests. And according to people I was in the car with after my tests, near accidents after my tests.
Yeah, I think anybody under the age of, let's say, I was going to say 50, but let's say
54?
under 30 should have to prove their worth behind the car before they're allowed to go over 20 miles an hour. Their cars should be physically limited to 20.
It's a good idea. I mean, also so my tests on the first one, I kind of fell asleep turning right.
You fell asleep?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know if I was actually asleep, but I may as well have been. The second time was the driving the examiner. He said, again, I was struggling to turn right, and I was about to turn, and he slammed on the brakes.
Thereby saving both of your lives. Yeah.
Well, yes, and right at the end of the test, he said to me, so, yes, you've not passed this time. And by the way, if I wasn't paying attention, these are his words, if I wasn't paying attention, that would have been it for both of us. and it gets worse, because I had the same guy for that test and the next two. And by the end, he was a quivering wreck.
Yeah. How many tests have you taken so far, Ryan?
That was 4. I passed on 4.
Okay, 4 strikes and you're out. Take the bus from now on. All right, just give up that idea of driving from now until the rest of your life. for the benefit of the human race, do not get a car. Not now, not ever, never. You've had 4 chances at it and you've failed. It's not very hard, Ryan. Please, we're begging you, don't buy a car. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Peter says, some people say Trump acts like a petulant 6-year-old, but my son is 6 and he's far more mature and sensible. I just looked at the polling in America, and it's absolutely remarkable what's happening over there. One moment, please. The latest polling... Now, keep in mind that Donald Trump was ahead of Joe Biden. Now, he is quite some distance behind Kamala Harris. This is a poll in The Economist. I think it's a poll of polls, as a matter of fact. And at the moment, Kamala Harris is on 47.9 and Donald Trump's on 44.9. Wow. How it's changed. And that was updated, let's see, today. So, I don't know, well, it was updated today, but the polling must have happened before today. So I don't know whether that includes the bump that they traditionally get, whichever party it is that is having their conference. They normally get a bump in the poll. So I don't know whether that's represented in there yet, but we'll find out, eh? Exciting, no?
No.
David says, I recently bought a large bundle of DVDs for £6 from a charity shop without their cases. Amongst them was a film called Idiocracy, which I haven't watched yet. Do you think it was £6 well spent? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Idiocracy. I thoroughly recommend it. I usually sell it by saying it used to be a comedy about the future. Now it's a documentary about the present. That's us, that is. Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Well, hello, Nick. How you doing, boy?
I'm all right.
Good. Good news from America, then, from that poll that you just announced. Mm-hmm. Nobody seems to be worried about what happens afterwards. I was listening to Matt Try this morning, and he was saying that, it's nonsense. Trump would not engineer the Constitution that he remains in. There would not be another election. I'm pretty confident that guy Cohen saying that's the plan.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's precisely what they're going to try and do. Whatever the actual result, the Republicans have been stating out loud the plan to steal the election. When people tell you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah, why people are not believing them, I have no idea. But anyway,
I mean, they put in place hundreds, if not thousands, of those people that certify elections. Which, I mean, I was talking about this before, and it's a job that nobody ever really considered as important before. It's just you're just a functionary. You just say, yes, this election in this ward was we counted all the ballots correctly, and they're all in a box over there. Job done. And that's all they did. Very, very boring and inconsequential job. And the Republicans thought, well, what if we make it not inconsequential? What if we put our people in there and they say, well, you know what? We found some other things that didn't quite sit right. And so Kamala Harris may have won, but we don't think that she did. So we're not going to say that she won. And they can do that.
Yeah, well, talking about the elections, you may be able to enlighten me on this one, Nick. Why can't we have a confirmation referendum on the Brexit?
He said the B word.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I keep getting fobbed off on this one.
Right.
Nobody's giving. Look, Nick. I'm old. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very old.
Very, very
ancient.
old. Yeah.
I voted in 1972 to join the EU.
Yes.
In 1974, Harold Wilson did a confirmation referendum on that result.
Mm-hmm.
So the history of Europe is a referendum to go in and a confirmation to stay in.
Right, you want a second referendum. Who in their right mind would want a second referendum?
We should have a second referendum.
I mean, really, anybody that's thinking straight shouldn't want a second referendum.
We should have a second referendum.
You'd have to be some sort of giant chump to want a second referendum.
We should have a second referendum.
Well, when did Farage say that, then? When did he say it?
I haven't got a date on it. I don't know.
All I can say to you is, what's going to happen then? Are we just going to sail along outside Europe?
Oh, and pretend that everything's going fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine that now that the grown-ups are in charge and they're not spending their days dreaming up ways to gaslight the nation to tell us that up is down, that I would imagine that cooler heads will prevail and we will gradually reintegrate ourselves with Europe, but not call it rejoining the EU.
Well, I hope so. I mean, you're very optimistic on this one, but yeah. I'm not getting these vibes from old Kia Cat Killer.
No, me,
you know,
Kia the Cat Killer. Yeah, that's right. Kia the Cat Killer. Well, if he wanted to kill a cat, that was probably the worst one to start with. But that's his decision.
So you haven't enlightened me, Nick. I am still bewildered. Okay?
All right. Okay, good work. Thanks, Jeff. Ta-da. The British government has rejected calls to bring back free movement for those aged 18 to 30 between the UK and the EU, dashing hopes of campaigners for a return to pre-Brexit freedoms, because you can't gives freedom. Earlier this year, the EU proposed a deal allowing young Europeans to work, study or volunteer in the UK, with a reciprocal agreement for young Brits for a period of up to 3 years. Now, this seemed perfectly reasonable. It's what young people who did not vote for their grandparents' Brexit used to be allowed to do. But it was rejected by the Conservative government. Because of course it was. You know,
this government
was run by a toxic collage of cartoon villain baddies who never knowingly did a good or decent thing. Ain't that right, Liz?
Absolutely.
Ain't that right, Smug?
I don't know anything.
And when the Labour Party got into power, everything changed. No, of course it didn't. Because Skeer and his minions are just as frightened of the Daily Mail as the Tories were. And so young people must make do with living in Peckham, not Paris. And Rochdale, not Rome. On Thursday, a government spokesmodel denied a report in The Times that the plan was being reconsidered by the Labour government. We are not considering an EU-wide youth mobility scheme, and there will be no return to freedom of movement. A Downing Street official said, "We're not considering this at all," they said. And furthermore, you will not have more gruel, no matter how many times you ask, and you will have your opportunities taken away and your horizons limited, because that is what some toothless inbred in a Union Jack T-shirt wants. No offence, but they're the ones who tend to vote, and the kids don't, so they get nothing. Prime Minister Skeer has promised to reset relations with Brussels, something pro-European campaigners believe will require Labour to relent on the issue. Relent, as in restricting young people's right to go and study and work in Europe is something to defend. You know, we don't want to travel, say the permanently furious flag wavers who only want to travel when it's to a hotel in Spain where they can fight with foreigners as to who can put the towels down on a lounger the earliest, or to a football match when we show our love of our country by throwing plastic chairs around a pavement cafe. A recent poll by a group called More in Common found that 58% of people thought a UK-EU youth mobility scheme was a good idea. And only 10% thought it was a bad idea. But it's the 10% that we're being run by because they shout the loudest.
Oh, fabulous.
Even supporters of the Reform Party, Nigel Farage's right-wing political company, liked the scheme. Even they liked that scheme.
Nigel Farage is not fit and proper to be in government.
And despite all the evidence that leaving the largest trade group in the world, that's right there on our doorstep, at the point where every other country on earth is either in a large trading group or trying to get into one, ministers are still wary of signing up to anything that could suggest a wider retreat from Brexit, given that Starmer promised to uphold the referendum result on leaving the EU. But I assume he only did that because he was terrified of getting monstered by the right-wing press and losing the biggest poll lead ever going into the last election. But newsflash, Skier, that's over now. You won. Get over it. You don't have to pander to the know-nothing blowhards that keep banging on about Brexit as though the sunny uplands are just around the corner. If only we screw our eyes together and click our heels and say 17.4 million people 3 times backwards in a mirror. All you've got to do is believe. Well, here's the news. We tried it. It didn't work. We realised we were lied to. Vlad the Insaner had a hand in delivering it because, of course, he did. And it couldn't have gone better for him. So the whole thing is tainted with corruption, false promises and oily charlatans telling us that up is down and shooting yourself in the foot is good for you. So we can act like grown-ups, admit our huge unforced error, and start to get back some of the things we lost. Yes?
No.
No, because Sid and Ethel in Clacton wouldn't like it, because they fear the immigrants round their way, an area that is 97% white British. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
He is a very sick and dangerous man.
Jerry says, is it too late for the Republicans to drop... Is it too late for the Republicans to drop Trump and get a real... and get a real candidate?
Don't be rude.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Donald Trump fires J.D. Vance. Because he must be freaking out right now, Trump. And I wouldn't be surprised if he fired J.D. Vance, his current vice president. You remember the old vice president? Yeah, he tried to have him killed. So there's there's an opening for that position. It was filled by J.D. Vance, and I would not be surprised if Donald Trump fired him. Well, who's going to take his place? I'll do both jobs. People come to me all the time. They say, sir, you would be fantastic doing both jobs. I say thank you. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Hi, good evening, Nick. I know your birthday was yesterday, but I'll still say happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
Nick, I'm ringing up two things, or maybe three, but I'm ringing up because it's really strange that the week that there's all this outcry about Reeves, Chancellor Reeves, Rachel Reeves, cutting the fuel payments to pensioners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bet she doesn't. Bet she doesn't. Go on.
No, I know. So one of the Labour, the peers, Lord Faulks.
Yeah.
Is it Faulks? Yes, he's saying that it's a critical error, it's a terrible blunder, and it's going to have devastating impact, and it's a misstep.
It was an unforced error, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is terrible. I mean, maybe God knows what's going to happen. I think they're going to have to do an about turn on that because it's causing an outcry, isn't it?
Having said that, though, some of the richest people in the country are pensioners, so they don't need the money. So I think it was just a clumsy way of trying to redistribute the money to those that need it more.
Yeah,
she might have picked a better way. If they don't just cancel it entirely, they'll probably rejig it a bit.
So Nick, but that was the kind of leading into this other thing that you've been speaking about, Larry the Cat at number 10, and there's this big thing about King Charles having 30 the hens that stop laying eggs. They're considered to be going into retirement. They're either slaughtered or there's actually, I'm quite surprised to see it, there's a British hen welfare trust that tries to find homes for the hens on their what they call their henopause, they stop laying eggs.
The henopause.
Yeah,
Right.
A spent hen. Yeah. Anyway, they can only lay eggs for about 18.
It
13,
sounds like
months.
it sounds like a bar that only does cocktails. The henopause. Go ahead.
Anyway, yeah, I found that quite funny. I just never had come across that before. So anyway, this charity welfare trust, British Hen Welfare Trust that was set up, the 1 millionth hen has King Charles is treating like a very special hen. So he's taking on 30 others.
But what's he doing with them?
31 hens to high grown.
Why?
For their retirement. So they can have a good retirement.
Well, what about their winter fuel allowance? Did anybody think of that?
I'm thinking of, yeah. So one of them, he's called Henrietta. He's given it especially, and she's been given a big house of her own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But apparently, this charity houses maybe up to. They try to find places, homes for these, so that they have a good retirement. Because I didn't know hens and chickens could live for up to 10 years.
Right. Well, I'd never really considered that before because most of them don't get to live past eating age, do they?
Yeah, but you see these anyway. So there's this charity is doing just. I was just thinking it's so strange that all these hens are having really good welfare, while our own pensioners aren't really.
Well, here's a good idea. Why can't King Charles adopt some pensioners? And,
why doesn't he?
And fashion a life for them that they would like to become used to.
Because, I mean, I remember some winters you said about, you had, what was it, a throw. There's some like a hot water, like an electric blanket that you can wear around you. So you can keep electricity bills down, can't you, with that? What did you call it, a throw?
You can't wear it. You just put it over you. Yeah, it's like
so you wrap it around you. It's like having you can move around in it.
Well, I don't know about that because you're plugged into the wall, so you could move as far as your as the wire goes, but no further.
Oh, anyway, all right. Well, I'm thinking I might get one of those to keep my bills down. But Nick, that's one thing I was going to say. But there's a second thing that is interesting. Mm-hmm. This is a nature thing as well. That there's I have got a thing for trees because there's some trees outside my window that seem like they want to grow into my room. There's
don't let them do that.
No, the new branches that were growing.
Yeah, that's the thing about trees. They're very, very pushy trees.
Yeah, it's a metre away from coming into my room through my window. Mm-hmm. But the sad thing is, it's like, as you said last week, it's like autumn already.
Yeah.
It's been so hot that the new leaves are turning ghostly white.
Yeah, white.
Yeah, they're turning white.
That sounds like there's something wrong with them to me.
No, they're like palms upraised, like they're pleading for some water. Anyway.
Well, they're not going to get anytime soon. I'm just looking at the weather forecast for the next couple of weeks, and where are you? Tooting. Oh, right. Well, we're going to get 2 weeks of sunny weather, according to the forecast that I'm looking at here.
They'll drop all their leaves. Yeah. They're dropping all their leaves. But what's interesting, Nick, is that there's
you keep saying that, and yet
the Woodland Trust.
Go on.
The Woodland Trust. That was the second point I was going to come because it's like I'm on this nature watch thing. The Woodland Trust is choosing a tree of the year. I didn't know they chose.
Well, I've chosen one already. I know which tree is my favourite tree.
Well, you tell us, but they've got a dozen magnificent oaks running for this year.
Never mind about that. I know what tree is the tree of the year this year, every year.
Is it yours? Have you got something in your garden?
No, it's not mine. No, my favourite tree in the whole wide world. It died.
Oh no!
Yeah, it fell down in the storm, or a giant chunk of it did, and it was at Kew Gardens, and then those experts at Kew Gardens, they executed it. They killed that tree.
Awful.
Yeah, they took it down. It was the stone pine, And those that have seen it will know what I'm talking about. It was absolutely blooming fantastic. And so in the absence of that, which was my favourite tree in the whole wide world...
I've got one for you.
My second favourite tree is also at Kew Gardens, and it's the Weeping Beech on the main thoroughfare there, the long walk. The Weeping Beech.
Well,
look it up when you go there next, Jan.
But Nick, please listen. So one of them is a tree in Cheshire that's 1,000, 2,000.
I'm not remotely interested. I have selected the tree of all of the years put together for the rest of my life.
The oldest tree in the world is in Scotland.
I don't care.
It's 5,000 years old. It's the oldest living thing in Europe.
How do you know that?
Because I looked it up when I heard about it. I did a little bit of research and I found it.
But how do they know that? I thought you had to cut... Wait a minute. I thought you had to cut a tree and count the rings to see how old it was.
Yeah, but you see, some of them look like they've got those... Anyway, you have to see a picture of it because it looks like...
I don't want to. Right, I don't want to.
But this one is 5,000 years. It's in Scotland, in Perthshire.
So they say. Yeah, so they say. I'm not convinced. Where's your evidence?
They've got pictures of it online. They say it's... Yeah,
well, you should have said that then. They got pictures of it. Well, why didn't you say so?
It's in Perthshire, Scotland, in a church. Yeah, it's called the Fortingall yew tree.
Then I don't like it.
They say it's 5,000 odd years.
5,000 odd years. Right, so they say. Yeah, but who are they? That's my question. Who are these people saying that?
No, they know because they can tell from the rings.
No, they can't. And unless they chop the tree down, they can't tell from the rings.
But this one in Scotland is supposed to be the oldest living thing in Europe.
Yeah, but who's saying that?
The tree experts.
Right. Okay. I want you to leave that with me, Jan, and I will look into that further. I will write up a report and have it on your desk first thing in the morning.
Negative.
Thanks for that. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. John texts, don't forget the weird lycra garb. He's talking about cyclists. These weirdos are absolutely no good to me. Lycra does not have pockets. Doesn't stop these cyclists coming into my shop with those shoes with nails on the soles, clippity-clopping on my wooden shop floor and scuffing it. I should make a sign, mind the floor. Enter at your own risk and thoroughly polish the floor on Iron Man weekend. Be great to see them weird lycra dudes sliding and hitting the deck, says John. Wow, very, very aggressive. Very, very angry person, John is. What's up, John? As if you got your lycra in a wad.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
Cronyism and corruption at the highest level. Skier Starmer was gifted free Taylor Swift concert tickets worth £4,000 while on the campaign trail earlier this year.
What?
Can you believe that? Oh, my God, he's the most corrupt politician this country has ever seen. Wouldn't you say so, Bodge? The now Prime Minister took a break from his campaign in June to attend Taylor Swift's first stop at Wembley Stadium on her record-breaking Eras tour, on which she sang some of her well-known tunes like, you know, the one that goes, I've got no idea. At the time, Skier shared a sweet picture of himself and his wife, Lady Victoria, in front of the 90,000-strong crowd as they looked on from a hospitality booth. Oh, I can only dream of looking on from a hospitality booth. Can you imagine? It's now come to light It's now come to light that the Labour leader got to enjoy the show for free, if you please, as he was gifted 4 hospitality tickets worth £1,000 each. Isn't that incredible? That tickets to see Taylor Swift in a relatively comfortable seat cost £1,000. You could buy my car for that. And you could put Taylor Swift on the cassette deck in the dashboard and cruise to the shops and back in it. Can you do that in a hospitality suite?
No.
The June show was not the only outing that skier enjoyed for free. Most of his gifted outings were to support his favourite football team, Arsenal. And they lost the last season anyway, the responsibility for which must be placed at his door. The Prime Minister was gifted free tickets to 12 football games with hospitality over the last year, amounting to a total of £19,340. The most expensive of these were 2 hospitality tickets worth £1,200 each to the Chelsea versus Arsenal football match in October last year, which ended in a draw, by the way, which was also Keir Starmer's fault. Starmer also received clothing from the former chairman of ASOS, Labour peer, Lord Ali, gifted him £16,200 worth of work clothing. Work clothing?
What?
Like dungarees and steel-toed boots. What's he want work clothing for? He doesn't do construction. Look at those hands. The heaviest thing he's ever picked up is a pen. He was also gifted £2,485 worth of multiple pairs of glasses, the better to see his corruption. And get this, the Labour manifesto, entitled Change, shared its name with a song from Taylor Swift's 2008 album, Fearless. Coincidence? I don't think so. Has there ever been a more corrupt politician to occupy number 10 Downing Street? Let's hear from an expert.
I can't comment on that.
Blah, 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 blah. Let's have, let's see now, Woolwich. Richard.
Woolwich?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Nick. Nick, everything you said about the whole EU debacle, I continue to completely agree with. I mean, it's just a nonsense. I just wanted to make that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't want to get angry about it because it just makes me all angry. Yeah. So I'm going to move on. The second thing is in the news. The thing that struck me was this whole idea about these astronauts that missed the connection. And they've got to wait until February.
I mean, the thing about space is that it actually the radiation. If you've spent that much time outside the Earth's protective atmosphere, the radiation from space actually has an effect on the inside of your body. And what you find is that over a significant period of time, which most people in space aren't subject to, but these people will be, you actually, in your urine, I'm sorry about this, but in your urine, you pass out the molecules that constitute your bones. So that when eventually they come back, they'll just be like a big blob with no bones in it, like like you could bounce around on them like a big party balloon, like a space hopper. When they come back down, those astronauts are going to be like space hoppers. They'll be just big bag of gelatinous material inside a skin sack with no bones. Can you believe that?
Well, can you imagine going to Lanzarote and sort of spending, have to come back in February if you were like missed your plane or something? Most people kind of sit by the pool and just, sip G&Ts.
They'll be peeing their bones away. And even if nothing that I just said is true, it doesn't prevent it from being a fact.
Yeah, it's frightening to hear. I just thought it's funny, but in fact it's quite alarming, isn't it, really? Yeah.
I mean, really? I mean, what are they going to do up there? February, for crying out loud. Can't they get them back sooner than that?
I would have, So here we are in this kind of space, this whole technological age. Yeah. I find it astonishing. I really do. But talking of that, Nick, the point I really phoned up about was driving, and I didn't actually take my test until I was in my 50s. I'm ashamed to say, but there it is. And I completely want to endorse this idea of actually having this kind of staggered approach to to being an accredited driver. The reason I'm saying that is because I passed my test on the Thursday, and on the Friday, I'd smashed my car into a brick wall. And
well, now, wait a minute. Was the brick wall coming in the opposite direction?
It was. The brick wall was completely responsible for the whole thing, totally. Yeah, but the thing that was really, it's kind of being in the car for the first time on your own is the thing I think that freaks you out. But it freaked me out. I mean, I had a panic attack about it, and that's kind of contributed to it. The copper that kind of like came on me called me a delinquent. I thought that was funny, being in my 50s. But I empathise completely with this. I mean, I know, you know, the 20-somethings, 18-somethings. There's a lot more going on. I realise that, but I think there's also this idea of, you know, being in the car for the first time. I do think it's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And
well, it is, but people tend not to drive as though it is a challenge. They drive as though nothing bad will ever happen to them because they're special. Yeah. I see it every single night I go home. Exactly. Every single night somebody on my journey home does something that is completely insane that I expect to, as I trundle along, eventually I'll come across them spinning on their roof. But it doesn't, it never happens.
Yeah, but are you saying that's a youth thing, though? I mean, is that, I mean, or
yes,
it's just generally?
It's a moron thing, but it's generally a youth thing. Although the tale that I told at great length yesterday about being tailgated all the way home was from a guy who was older than I was. And he had absolutely no idea, and received my opprobrium with surprise as I wound my window down and yelled at him at the lights and corrected him in no uncertain terms. That. Well, I know I shouldn't, but I just couldn't help myself. I was just furious with it.
Yeah, but that's in the highway code, if I may just say so.
Yeah, well, never mind about that.
But the really thing that I think that we should adopt.
Hang on a minute. What's in the highway? Wait a minute. What's in the highway code?
Oh, you can't wind down your window and shout at people.
Why not?
Well, because it said you can't do, because it's in the highway code, so you can't.
I don't believe that it's in the highway code. Read the highway. Go on.
Well, I read it because I just passed my test about a year ago.
It says in the highway code that you can't wind down your windows and shout at people.
Yeah, because you have to have a sort of emotional intelligence, and you have to be kind of calm, and you have to you just pull over and take deep breaths. That's what it says now in the highway code. Really, I'm serious. but Nick, what I think the fix to this is something they do in Brazil and other countries, oddly enough, is simulations. We don't do simulations in tests. I think, you know, we do these silly little things where we click on sort of, you know, anticipating events and that sort of stuff on and all of that stuff is on YouTube, so you kind of get to know, right. You can memorize the whole thing, and you can pass a theory test really quite easily.
Yeah, the theory part, yeah, but the driving part.
Do simulations.
Well,
I think you should actually get in the kind of a simulator and really, you really be there, and if you can't react in a way, i.e. that a brick wall's coming at you, then I don't think you should drive. Like me, I shouldn't be driving.
I don't think
now I'm a great driver.
Yeah, sure you are. Mm-hmm. I think that people should have a black box in their car until they can prove that they don't need one, and the black box should take a note of how fast they're going, whether they're actually breaking any regulations, how near they're driving to the car in front, you know, all that sort of stuff. I'm sure that black boxes are available to do all that kind of thing, and they can also monitor the sound level in your car, so you're not driving along like you've got the Who in the boot.
Rock and roll. Yeah. Or indeed winding down the window and shouting at fellow drivers, you know.
Well, that's perfectly reasonable if it's
okay, I'll take it.
If it's done with the good cause. I think you'll find that is in the highway code, Richard. All right, good work. Thanks a lot, mate. Ian says 20-mile-an-hour areas have cameras and send speed tickets, making speed humps redundant, so why not remove them and use the rubble to fill in the potholes? Speed cameras are no good. because people just slow down and then crawl past the speed cameras and then floor it once those little lines on the road disappear. The only speed cameras that anybody pays any attention to are the average speed cameras you see set up on a motorway. It says average speed 50 mile an hour, and we are watching you, and absolutely nobody breaks that rule. It doesn't stop people tailgating you and flashing you and doing their nut if you're doing 49, not 50. But you can pretty much rely on nobody doing 60 or 70 or trying to weave in and out of traffic. It's the only thing that works. And I think that black boxes would be that on steroids, because it would be paying attention to what you're doing all the time, even if you're not. Let's have Perth, Mike. Oh, you know what, Mike? I've just seen what time it is. Can I go to the break and come back?
Yeah, fine.
Excellent. Another cooperative customer.
Thank you. This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Well, let's get back to it.
And by it, I mean Mike in Perth. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Nick. Yeah, I was just listening to your, what would I call it? A rant about the EU. Freedom of movement, and I think freedom of movement could have been a great thing, but as you might know, there was under freedom of movement between 5 and 6 million new people came into the country from, if you like, about 27 other countries, whereas only 900,000 left the UK and were thinly spread over these same 27 other countries. So who do you think got the largest majority of freedom of movement?
Well, a better question would be who benefited the most?
No. Whose NHS, whose housing, whose education system suffered? No, freedom of movement.
Mike, when was the last time you went to avail yourself of our excellent NHS?
Yes, could I answer that, please? You know who? It's often said, and you said it, that if we go to the NHS, you'll probably be attended to by a migrant. Yeah, but remember, Nick, between 5 and 6 million people were able to queue up at the NHS to be served.
To be served.
So what?
But most of the people that are coming here, Mike, aren't old, ill people. They're young, healthy people.
No, but everybody gets ill at some time, unfortunately. So yeah.
No, but it's the old. Yes, but it's the older people who get ill the most, and the older people are being treated by the migrants who've come here who are healthy enough not to need NHS treatment.
Many of the migrants. I go to my doctors not often, but it's many foreign voices I'm hearing in my doctor's surgery.
Yes, I think you're tuned to listening. You're tuned to hearing foreign voices, Mike, because that seems to be an issue that exercises you. So I lived I live in London, which is significantly more what's the word? Diverse than Perth in Scotland. I can tell you that for a fact. And it doesn't really, I don't really notice what you're talking about. I see them helping, I see them serving, I see them taking care of us, I see them picking fruit and vegetables and cleaning after us and delivering to us and doing all the kind of drudge jobs that we don't want to do, and a lot of the jobs that are highly skilled that we don't want to do. And without them, this country would be a significantly poorer place, both socially and economically. And there's no amount of your whining that will make any difference to that fact. But I appreciate it, Mike. I really do. But I can't have that conversation again. I can't. Ian texts. No, I've read that one. Chris says, has anyone noticed, due to austerity cuts under the Tories, we've had summer cut last year and this year? What? Has anyone else noticed that due to austerity cuts under the Tories, we have had summer cut last year and this year? It doesn't make any sense even if I put an S on the end of cuts. No. I'm just going to pass over that one. I'll call that 2 in a row on the Nicky Abbott Show. Les says, I'm just a little teed off with people insulting pensioners for voting Tory. I'm a pensioner and I haven't ever considered voting Tory. I've always voted to make this country a less selfish one. My neighbours have fallen out with me over my political views. I've been amazed at how selfish my pensioner neighbours are, so good riddance. I voted all my life for Labour until Corbyn, and then I voted Green ever since, says Les. That's a very frequent message that I get. And when I say that, or others say that old people tend to vote Tory and they voted for Brexit, that doesn't mean to say that every single one did that. We're talking about trends and averages. And it is indisputable that older, poorer people vote Tory, weirdly. You'd think that they'd have got the message now that the Conservatives aren't really on their side, Liz?
Absolutely.
And they voted for Brexit. Older, poorer people. But that doesn't mean to say that all old or all poor people did either of those two things. Just talking about averages. Rebecca says, just heard in the headlines that Starmer says the UK will get worse before getting better. How can anything be worse than the past few years? Are we being put on notice for further austerity? 14 years of opposing Tory policy just to implement the same himself. Change, he promised. No, Rebecca, it's just the truth. Isn't it refreshing to be told the truth?
No.
No, it isn't. People are still complaining. And louder they will be complaining. Oh, it's so much better under Boris Johnson. He came out and told us a pack of lies and it was great. No. This is the truth. A country is like an oil tanker. It's not a speedboat. You can't turn around on a sixpence. Kids will have to ask their parents what a sixpence is. Parents will have to ask their grandparents. You can't turn it around on a threepenny bit. There you go. That's not rhyming slang, by the way. It's an oil tanker. It takes an age to turn it around. This country is going to take forever. I would be surprised if we notice any kind of positive difference between now and the next general election. I'd be actually quite amazed if they managed to pull that off. Except that there is the benefit of being talked to like a human being. Not have people come out like robots and just spout a bunch of spurious statistics, hoping that we won't check on what they're saying. That's a relief, isn't it? One moment while I take a sip. Hot water.
Boring.
That's what I'm drinking. It's neat hot water. Luton. Hello, Adam.
Hey there.
Hello there.
Actually, just quickly on your how things are going to take a really long time to change. I think 2 days ago, Keir Starmer just passed the amount of days that Liz was in. So actually, he's done quite a lot, considering Liz used that time to kill the Queen and do absolutely nothing and crash the economy. And actually, I think it has been all right 50 days or 51 days. So
I wonder what she's been doing since.
I'm genuinely unclear.
She's got no idea.
Yeah, quasi. Yeah, well, anyway. So just a quick point in regards to this youth movement scheme that Labour is opposed to and the oldies are also spitting feathers over. I don't know if you had the chance to hear Tom Sporbrick. Some guy called up and was like, what they're going to do is they're going to come over here, find someone to shack up with, have a baby and come and claim the benefits. And I just thought, oh, God. So, I mean, because, you know, my friend who's Belgian, who left, actually, my best friend, went back to Belgium after Brexit, she always jokes that English people are now, you get them, like, spam emails of, like, busty European beauty looking for romance. She always jokes that, like, going to be, like, people actually responding to it now to try and get their European citizenship back. We're actually going to start responding to, like, Russian beauty spam ads.
Adam, I have never had one of those ads.
Oh, really?
What websites are you looking at?
Well, just email, you know, you get them like fraudsters that message you. Now English people will probably be like, right, let's just make a deal and get our European citizenship back. And so, you know, this week it was the A-level results day.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's
I
right,
heard on
because
LBC...
Jeremy Clarkson does his usual thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and on LBC, so they announced that more young people are applying for European languages again, which I think is a really good idea, because that will be the way we will be able to compete with our European counterparts. Because the reason why they come here, following your last caller, is because a lot of them can speak 3 languages. We can't go there because we can barely speak 1 language. And so, as somebody who actually did study in Europe, because I remember I told you I went to a professional technical college in Sweden, and so it was free. And so with the advent of young people now picking up European languages, and actually even international student prices for university are actually cheaper than our own. Like Germany is like £1,000, Spain, I remember being £1,000, Sweden is free. If you can speak the language, you can actually study there for cheaper than you can in your own country, and you're picking up a second language, and you'll accrue 3 years out of the 5 years. So actually do shack up with somebody. 2 more years after your degree, you'll get European citizenship, and just get out of here, because you can't guarantee the next election people aren't going to say, yeah, well, Labour ruined the whole country in 5 years, and forget the 14 years before. Get out, young people.
People are saying that already. People are already saying that Labour has ruined this country. He's barely got his knees under the desk, and they're already saying he's the worst Prime Minister in history.
Do me a favour.
Adam, don't get out of this country. Stay in this country and change it for the better. There you go. I don't want to leave. Why the hell should I leave? Because of them? No way. I don't want to, and you can't make me. Thanks a lot, Adam. He's very, very emotional. Michael Gove has a message for you.
Calm down.
Rebecca says, just heard in the headlines that Starmer says the UK will get worse. Oh, no, I've read that one. Worse before it gets better. Things will get worse before they get better. Get that space hippie on the phone. He'll have to rewrite that song. Oh, information. Information coming in. Blot your copybook, says Dawn, refers to making an ink blot on the book children used to copy and practice writing letters. Huh. Well, that makes sense. By the way, kids, if you haven't used a fountain pen, then treat yourself. Buy yourself a fountain pen and you can thank me No, wait, I've changed my mind. You can thank me now. You won't believe how well you write with a fountain pen. It's just, it's a revolutionary tool. It's something about that it slows you down, because a biro just slides across the page and everybody's writing with a biro is terrible. There's just no way to write well with a biro. It can't be done. Fountain pens, on the other hand, it's as though it's a work of art.
Groovy.
Sharon says, you're so right. Well, that is true. She says, you're so right. Everything is filmed nowadays. I remember going out and getting drunk and there'd be no evidence of it. Yes, that's right. Well, people used to be able to go to do the disco dancing, and they could dance like no one was watching. Or rather, they could dance like nobody was recording them. Yeah, there was a certain freedom with that. And in order to remember things that you did, you don't have a wobbly video of it that you'll never look at. You use a thing called your memory. Anybody used one of those lately?
No.
Didn't think so. No, we watch our entire life on a wobbly, out-of-focus, 3-inch screen. It just doesn't make sense nothing really makes sense anymore, not to me. Yvonne says, reference Idiocracy. I found a copy of that film in a charity shop and I look forward to, and that's where this sentence ends. We have got no idea what Yvonne is looking forward to, but we can only imagine.
Disgusting.
Keep it clean, Yvonne.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
And remember, darling, I don't work before 10 in the morning and never after 4:30 in the afternoon.
I do believe I've played that one already this evening. Oh, well, never mind. Richard says Oasis reportedly doing 10 dates at Wembley and 10 in Manchester next summer. I'd recommend seeing the Rolling Stones instead. They're touring the Hackney Diamonds album. I most definitely would choose the Stones, yeah. God, now I've seen Oasis live. They were boring. So dull. So dull. I mean, way too much attitude. Just pouring off the stage it was. No, not for me. It's a big no from me. Walthamstow, hello, Kim.
Hello there.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
Great, mate.
Good. Yeah, I just wanted to share with you my plan to make day-to-day life much easier for everybody.
Go ahead.
I know. Although a lot of my very much younger friends think I'm completely bonkers, but, you know, do I care? No, I don't. So I have a smartphone. I love my smartphone. I love social media. I love all that stuff. But when I'm out and about, so when I'm on the bus or, you know, walking around, I don't use my phone unless I absolutely have to in an emergency. It's in my bag. So I have always and continue to talk to people at bus stops.
Uh-oh.
I know. And I live in London.
Uh-oh.
But this always used to be the way everyone worked, you know. If you're sitting there at the bus stop, the bus is taking ages to get there. You look around, you make some conversation, you know. It's getting harder and harder because everyone's on their phone.
Yes.
But I'm not on my phone. My phone's in my bag. So I look around for people. I know I sound weird. I do, but I'm not. I trust me, I'm really not weird. I look around, see if anyone else hasn't got their phone out, and I start talking to them. And it's great.
I think women talk to each other, or talk to anybody really, at a bus stop, but blokes just won't.
Well, they will if you talk to them.
Yeah, if you talk to them, yes.
Yeah.
But they won't initiate the conversation. They just won't.
No, but as a concept, it's not bonkers, is it? I mean, I wanted to run it past you because you're not bonkers.
Well, of course it's not bonkers because that's how life used to be. We weren't. I mean, the only thing that you would be gazing at would be a book. Anybody remember those? No, I didn't think so.
You didn't even do that at a bus stop on the tube, or on trains.
On tube, yeah, that's right.
But at the bus stop, you know, you just wait for the bus and you talk to people, and you know, I still say thank you to the bus driver when I get off.
Yeah, I do every now and again. Yeah.
Yeah. But so many of my my friends' younger, you know, their children and grandchildren think I'm absolutely crazy. But wouldn't it be a nicer world?
Yeah,
really?
No. Keep the conversation alive, Kim. You're doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Just pick and choose who you talk to, though.
Well, I'm old enough. I'm long enough in the tooth to sort of suss out who I'm talking to, and it's not at night.
No, never at night.
No. Anyway, your voice sounds croaky again.
A little bit,
right?
Yeah. But the thing is, it's fine during the day because I don't really talk that much. But and neither does really does anybody in the normal course of events talk as much as I do in a 3-hour show.
Well, no, of course
not. So I only know when I'm doing the show that there's something wrong with it. But whatever I've got hasn't really gone away. But it's better.
But have you? This is really boring. I'm sorry. I don't want to be boring at this time of night. But have you got everything checked out? Have you had a chest X-ray? Have you done all that stuff?
Oh, I didn't have a chest X-ray. No, I had some bloke he stuck a camera up my nose and down my throat. Can you believe that?
How pleasant was that?
Not particularly. Well, I wouldn't want to, have it every day, but it was nice to know that there's actually nothing wrong down there.
Good. That's okay. But please, just for the sake of everything, go and have a chest X-ray as well. Just tick all the boxes, please. Okay. Promise me.
I'm not going to do that. But thanks for the advice, Kim. Appreciate it.
That's okay. All right.
Cheers, my dear. Ta-da. You'll be able to chat with Kim at a bus stop near you. Just start by saying, "Hi, Kim," and see how it goes. Let me know. Graham says, is there anyone out there who has not got a smartphone, a computer, and has never experienced the idiocy of social media? Or am I the last person on earth who has a life without all that rubbish? Quite possibly. Although undiscovered tribes in the Amazon basin may not have had a smartphone either. Not yet. It seems extraordinary. You watch a film from like the 1980s and no one has a phone. No one has a phone. And it was just the 1980s, which to me seems kind of like yesterday-ish. And companies were built and relationships were had and people met and they went out and, society rubbed along pretty much as it is now. And all of that communication, all of that information, we didn't have any of that. We had the news once a day. Once. And if you wanted to call somebody on the train, you couldn't. If you had some vital information that you needed to impart and you were out, you had to use a thing called a telephone box.
Disgusting.
Awful. And yet life carried on. And it doesn't seem as though life was any different to today. It didn't seem to be wanting for anything in the 1980s, the 1970s. People didn't seem to, you'll see films from that period and they didn't look like they were being deprived of anything. And yet we live our lives in a completely different way. And I think if anything, we're the ones that are missing something, and it's called human interaction. And there's much, much, much less of that now. And I'll go back to my thought a while ago that it's been such a sea change in the amount of human interaction that we have that I don't think that we've actually dealt with it yet as a species. And it's quite possible that kids coming through now, teenagers, they will be the ones that will have whatever psychological, social effect of this change in the way that we interact or the way we run our days. I think if there is going to be a negative reaction or consequence, it will be with them. Because grown-ups have had life before and after, and we weren't totally immersed in it while we were growing up. Fortunately, I mean, I'm really glad about that. Let's see now. Norbury. Hello, Tony.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I just want to touch on some British politics before I go to America.
Oh.
Because basically, I just want to get your thoughts on the Labour government keeping Tory politics, as in the two-child benefits, and what they've done this week to the pensioners. Your thoughts?
My thoughts about the pensioners thing is I don't think that they'll do it. I think that the pushback will be so great that they will cancel that. Or they'll finesse it somehow that, because there's a lot of pensioners that are some of the richest people in the country. They don't need it. So I think it was perhaps a clumsy way of trying to address that, and they will make that better. As for the two-child...
what about the two-child benefits?
All right, as for the two-child benefit thing, of course you realise that the people who put that policy in place have three-child benefit. They can claim, I think it's $5,000 a year for up to 3 children, MPs, so that's somewhat hypocritical. I also note that, like Japan and advanced economies, we have a major problem that people aren't having enough babies. That's true.
Yes, but the... MPs, the Labour MPs that got thrown out of the pie for wanting to keep it. This Muslim woman that wanted to keep it, I can't remember her name, but she was treated appallingly because she wanted to keep it, and they threw her out of the pie. I think it's disgraceful. Right? Don't you?
Well, you asked me a question and then you stopped me responding about halfway through. I mean, my response to that is it doesn't make any sense, because what we really need in this country is more people to have babies, because we've got an inverted pyramid coming. We need the pyramid to be the other way around, with the young people on the bottom, the most numerous, and then the older people at the steepling top of the pyramid. What we've actually got is it the other way around. We've got an enormous number of older people who are getting older with every day, shuffling towards the end of the conveyor belt of life, and a decreasing number of small people who are going to be economically active. So we actually need to encourage people to have children, not to discourage them with that two-child policy. So there you are, Tony. That is an answer in full. Are you completely satisfied?
No, but how are we going to fund it all?
How many questions do you have? How are we going to fund it all? I don't know. We'll borrow, just like everything else that a government wants to do. We'll tax the rich. There you go. Jerry says, because of technology where everyone taps or swipes the keyboard on their smartphones and laptops, the actual ability to write using a pen and paper is disappearing at a rapid rate. A sad indictment of progress of human race, says Jerry. Yeah, everybody should buy a fountain pen. They're not that expensive. You can get them relatively cheap. And you will be amazed at how your handwriting improves from the use of it. Phil says, if politicians and those in the media want to be credible when demonising platforms, they should stop using it and unsubscribe. Right. Well, not necessarily, because it's just a way of imparting information like paper is. I mean, you can say that somebody has sent out a hate leaflet, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to give up using paper. Tyler says, long gone are the days when people go into clubs and pubs to meet others. Now it's done on the internet. Tinder and Plenty of Fish are, are all websites where I have met beautiful people who have become really good friends, says Tyler. Are we believing that? I'm not sure. I don't know. Let's see now. Oh, I can't take this call now because I'm too up against the break. I'll try to get through some... Oh, my God, the amount of texts, that's just outrageous. Lynn says, radio listening, I drive as part of my self-job. Probably I drive as part of my job. Radio, or as it's written here, Raddy, is my new best friend. My new best friend, especially LBC, says Lynn, who is learning English as she goes along. Adrian says, I'm so glad that I had my youth and mental years before the mobile phone and social media. Just think of the horrors that would haunt you years later with the technology that we have today. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, plenty of things in all of our lives that we wouldn't want to have recorded that can be accessed at will by a future employer, for instance. It says the speed of change is certainly becoming more acute. We could well be under full control of battling AI minds by 2040, but it might just be a fad. I'm not entirely sure I understand much of that, but I'll just nod my head in agreement. This is me doing that right now. Matthew texts, being from Scotland and going lobster red if sunburned... Being from Scotland and going lobster red with sunburn if I'm within a mile radius of a 20-watt light bulb. I, too, have never understood the appeal of going on holiday to the middle of a literal desert. No, me neither. It don't make no sense. Italy or France. Just pick anywhere in either of those two countries and thank me later.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
We are running late. Max texts, my favourite tree is the magic money tree. Yeah, Theresa May had that cut down. Jack says, why have the Labour Party suddenly become the Tories? Oh, for crying out loud. They haven't really done anything yet. Just wait a moment. Josie says, my mum got to the day of her driving test, which must be 40 years ago now. She started off great with reading the number plate of a nearby car. Then her and the examiner got into the car and he tutted. She started the car and he tutted again. Poor mum's confidence waned. The examiner tutted all through the test. It wasn't until she got back to the test centre when she had been told that she'd failed that another learner informed Mum that the examiner she had a terrible habit of tutting. She never retook her test. Right, I definitely thought that was going to go somewhere else. Never mind. You live and learn. Bodmin, Malcolm.
Good morning, Nick. How are you?
Yes, great, mate.
Hey, on trees... I'm with you on one, but I've got a second favourite. Mm-hmm. My, I think, favourite tree is the red... God, come on.
Maple? Acer?
Yeah. Acer, yeah.
Acer.
The red Acer, absolutely gorgeous. I had one in a former house, and it's still there looking beautiful. And my other favourite...
let me ask you this. In what position in the garden is it as far as the sun is concerned? Is it in full sun?
Well, it was... Yes, it was.
Right, because I have a red Acer in, it's in a pot, but I do water it a lot. But it seems to be complaining everywhere I put it. It doesn't like to be in too much shade, it doesn't like to be in dappled shade, and it doesn't like to be in full sun. I mean, what does it want? I think it needs ground, Nick. Ground. Rather than a pot. You need to put it in the ground rather than... Yeah, but it doesn't know it's in a pot. No, they suffer in pots, Nick. They've always been a tree we've liked, my daughter, my wife, myself, and we've always had them. And we've had some quite a while. We've got a lovely red one here now in a pot, but it isn't as it ought to be. I think in soil is the place for them. But then, if I could move you on, my second favourite is the Magnolia stellata. Two types of magnolia I'm aware of, Solangiana and stellata. But the stellata is the one with the white flowers, which are, they're like stars. Yes. Long white petals. Yeah, I think that is the most beautiful. The thing with the magnolia, though, is the flowering is amazing, but it's gone inside of about 3 or 4 days. Yeah, but boy, is it worth waiting for, and is it worth enjoying when it happens, I think. So, yeah, those are my 2 trees. Right. But the reason I rang in, Nick, is as people on the radio have been saying, we're over 50 days now into Labour's victory run, as it were. And it's a mixed bag for me. He's done well with things like the riots and keeping most things quiet. But he's done what I was suggesting a while ago because of some weak links, which you're going to have in any sort of regime. For example, the heating thing. That's, as you said, a misstep. But I don't think, and I've let it be known that my view is, let it be known on air, that as a retired school teacher, I get a teaching pension. I've had 20% in the last 2 years, so I'm not screaming and shouting. But that's not to say that people who are 65, 66 and above and only on a state pension are not in a great place. In Europe, we're one of the lowest paid pensioners in the whole of Europe. But as my point would be, in relation to everybody else in Britain, if Labour are saying you've only got so much money we can spend, then I would say, well, let some of the people who haven't had 20% in the last 2 years have a little bit. But then I stop and I think, well, if Labour, for most of us, Labour are as far left as we want to go. There's not much left of Labour that you'd want in power. So there's no way I can hope for more from the Labour Party at the moment than I'm going to get, because they're as far left, I think, as you go and win power for it that way. If you go the other way, you're where the Tories are, and beyond that, you've got Farage and his crew. So, for me, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place as a nation. But then Labour have got to start using their nous a little bit better than Noodle. Well, don't you think that they haven't really had enough time to exhibit their nous? I mean, give them a chance. They've been on holiday almost the entire time that they've been in power. Yeah, and that's why I've kept my mouth shut on the radio for the first 50 days. But I'm starting to feel a little bit, not queasy, but a little bit annoyed. And I'll give you an example. Sue Gray is allegedly fighting with another fella. Well, for me, Keir Starmer made Sue Gray Queen, yeah? So there shouldn't be any talk in the papers about Sue Gray and the other fella who I'm sure you know about. Then you've got Rachel Reeves, who made an appointment of a friend, I think a donor. Yeah. And that had to have been... They've now rescinded that. He's now going to be an unpaid advisor.
short term, yeah? And it's little things like this that we were disgusted by with the Tories.
Well,
and
now, it just very much depends. I mean, we were disgusted with it by the Tories because there was just so very much of it, and it was so blatant and so not in the interests of the people in this country, but in the interests of the people that were running this country. Now, what you've just described may or may not fit that bill. It's just that because of 14 years of
this government
and the previous ones, we just automatically think the worst of anything that a politician does, regardless of which party they're in.
And as I said a moment ago, Nick, I'm all for Labour. I did all I can, phoning the radio, expressing my views to you, whoever would listen, about, for God's sake, people, do what's best for you.
Yes.
And what I'm thinking now is I want the party that's best for me, which is Labour, to not lose the plot.
Right.
So
there's no evidence that they are losing the plot.
No.
Give them a chance. For crying out loud, he's going to make this big speech on Tuesday, and I've already been, I skipped through it, and there's not much detail, but then you wouldn't expect him to give you precise detail in an overarching speech. But they're building up to their big budget in October, which I think is pretty much the latest that they can actually do it. So they're going to give themselves a lot of time. They're going to be beavering away, trying to figure out how to get us out of this massive hole that that the Tories left for us, and so we'll find out. I mean, it's barely been he's barely been Prime Minister longer than this person,
absolutely,
than Liz Truss, and so let's just pause and take a breath.
I agree, but what I would add then, and look, I'm not arguing for Labour to be deposed by a long chalk. Like I said, if you go left, which is where I want to be, I'm with Labour as far left as I want them and me to go. But the point I'm making is, Nick, they're giving the Tories in 7 weeks one or two little things, but then I'll go back to some more issues with personnel. Whereas Streeting, there's a brilliant thing. He settles with the junior doctors at 22%, but he allows them scope for them to say, and next year we'll be back. He should have had it in writing in that agreement for 22%. The junior doctors say nothing for you.
All right.
And on it goes, Nick.
And on it goes. Yeah, exactly right. But let's just, like I said, I can't get past they've only had their knees under the desk for a matter of weeks, essentially, before they've all gone on holiday. Nothing has happened yet. So let's just pause for a moment. Let's reel in our expectations. They're not wizards. They're just people. So it'll take a while. Thanks a lot, Malcolm. Good things come to those that wait. I mean, sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. Let's find out, shall we? Let's give them till the end of the year, for crying out loud. It's going to take way longer than that to make an improvement in this country, to make an improvement to anything that we really care about, way longer than the end of the year. I'd be amazed if they actually fashioned some improvement in our lives within 5 years. And if you were expecting something quicker, then, that's... let me introduce life to you. All right, some messages before I go. Sandra says, I used to love using my fountain pen at school. I always used to use turquoise ink. Ah, yeah, I got some of that. It looks fantastic on the page. Stanley says, just bought a fountain pen online. I hope I don't Just bought a fountain pen online. I hope I don't get disappointed because they are quite costly. Well, the costly ones are, Stanley. But hey, you're worth it. Nikki says, hey, Nikki, you're so fine, etc. I had dual citizenship, so I wasn't lumped and shackled to those Brexiters. I've still got my freedom of movement, but it shouldn't be just the youth that have freedom of movement. It ought to be for everybody. Well, that makes sense to me. I think there'll be a point in our near future where people will look at these random lines that we've drawn on the map and think, what on earth were we thinking? This anonymous text says, and keep in mind that this is all in capitals, like he's shouting at me. If there was an election today, Labour would be gone 100%. You are delusional. There's a man who's got to get out of that bubble he lives in. Angus says, to thank the bus driver when I disembark, I too thank the bus driver when I disembark, but didn't do so when I was much younger. Do you know why not? Because I'd have had to go out into the middle of the road to do so. That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's the old Route Master bus, that is. And finally, Phil says, "Oi, Grandad, what's rave music?" "Why, you little..." Now, if you missed any part of this super show, you can listen to it again on Global Player. Global Player is free. Get it from your App Store or globalplayer.com. And the thing to ask Global Player to play you is Nick Abbot, The Whole Show podcast. We take the news and the ads out. Quicker to listen to. You'll love it. Nick Abbot, The Whole Show podcast. I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock. 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 I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock.